Hi guys! Today I'm going to be experimenting with two different ways to hold your graphite pencil. Tapered, or close to horizontal with the paper, versus perpendicular. I have heard that by using a tapered stroke you can maintain a really sharp pencil point, which is important for being able to get crisp details and getting the graphite into the tiny crevices of the paper. However, I feel like the only way to get that sharp point into the crevices of the paper is to hold the pencil more perpendicular. In order to test this out, I have decided to go with just 3 pencils, B, 2B, and 8B, all from the Faber-Castell 9000 series, layering from light to dark. I'm doing this on Strathmore Bristol Vellum on the rougher side of the paper. Ultimately, I wanted to discover if I could still get a really dark tone using the tapered stroke, as well as to discover how much more often I would have to sharpen my pencils if I shade holding the pencil perpendicular. So you'll see me hold the pencil up to the camera just to show you the point and show you how well that point has been maintained with the tapered stroke, and also to show you when I start actually sanding down the pencil. So for the tapered stroke, I found that I didn't have to sand the pencil or sharpen the pencil hardly at all. There was just one time that I did for the tapered stroke, and that was just because when I sharpened it, the point wasn't as sharp as what I wanted, so I had to sand it down just to get it to a really sharp point, and then after that it was basically maintained throughout the whole process. For the perpendicular method, I found that after a very short time the pencil lead would become a little bit rounded, and that makes it harder to get into the grooves of the paper and get the coverage that I want. So I have to sand down the pencil lead a lot more often than I would with the tapered stroke. At this point I decided I wanted to test out the blending stump as well. So I divided the circles in half, and on the left side I used the blending stump, and on the right side of the circles I leave them just the way they are. Oh, and here's my cat Maggie. She really likes to interrupt my drawing and sit on my paper and make a fuss. I guess it's the best way to get attention, but and I guess just as a note, if you're working on something that you actually care about and you want to sell, or you don't want to have scratch marks in, probably don't let your cat walk all over your paper. But this was just an experiment, so I wasn't really that concerned with shooing my cat away. Anyway, as you can see, there's already quite a difference between the tapered stroke and the perpendicular stroke as far as how dark the pencil gets. On the right side is the perpendicular method, and on the left is the tapered stroke. And although the tapered stroke is really great for keeping your pencil sharp, it's just not getting into the crevices of the paper as I would have hoped. It's leaving a lot of the white grainy texture behind, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're going for, but if what you want is a really dark, solid color, then it's just not going to work. As you can see, the blending stump works fairly well for the tapered stroke side because, well, the problem with the tapered stroke is that it isn't getting the graphite into all of the little crevices. So the blending stump actually works to get the graphite into those crevices. But for the perpendicular stroke, the blending stump doesn't actually do that much. I actually found that it lifted off some of the graphite rather than distributing it more evenly. We've got another surprise visit from my studio assistant. It gets quite difficult to shade when your cat is actually laying on top of you. Once I move aside my quality assurance inspector, you can see already that with the 2B pencil, using the perpendicular stroke, I'm able to get a much darker tone than with the tapered stroke. The problem, however, is that I end up chewing through my pencils quite quickly. Already with the 2B pencil, I have sanded it down 4 or 5 times and sharpened it once just to keep that point sharp enough to get into the crevices of the paper. I don't know how well it's going to show up on the video here, but using the blending stump does in fact pull up some of the graphite. It doesn't make it darker like it would on the other side with the tapered stroke. Now on to the last layer of graphite. I'm using the 8B pencil to get my darkest tone. Now what's really nice about the tapered stroke is that even with the 8B pencil, although it has a very soft lead, by using this sort of stroke I'm able to keep quite a sharp point, and I don't even sand the pencil or sharpen it at any point. And at the end of shading that whole section, the point is still pointy. So that's really nice about the tapered stroke. The only thing is, once I get over to the perpendicular side, you can see how much darker I'm actually able to get the graphite. And of course, with the 8B lead being so soft, that's one that I had to sharpen quite a bit. I think I sanded it down 8 times and sharpened it twice in that whole section. So if you can imagine doing this over a larger project, you would end up chewing through your pencils very quickly. And yeah, just a couple projects where you have a really dark background, or the main subject is wearing something black and therefore you have to get a really dark tone over a lot of area on the paper, you're going to have to buy a new 8B pencil fairly soon. So I guess the take-home message from this exercise is that it's really important to get good dark coverage by making sure the graphite gets into all of the little crevices in the paper. Holding your pencil perpendicular to the paper is one way to do that. However, you end up chewing through your pencils quite quickly. So I think I'll have to experiment a little bit more to see if there's a different method to use or a better way to do the tapered stroke. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. So we'll see in part 2. At the end, I hold up the piece of paper at an angle just to show you that both sides have about the same amount of graphite shine to them. The left side is noticeably lighter than the right, mostly because you can see a lot more of the grainy texture of the paper. The blending stump helped with the tapered stroke to distribute the graphite more evenly, but it did not do anything for the perpendicular stroke. And I sharpened the pencil quite a lot more on the perpendicular stroke as opposed to the tapered stroke. I hope this first journal entry was informative for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for part 2, where I revisit the tapered stroke and see if I can enrich that dark tone and maintain my sharp pencil lead. See you next time!